Well, we're still standing.
You don't look like you're standing to me.
Well, we're not stand, well, we can stand.
Yeah,
And we've been through the pandemic so far. I think we've all been vaccinated. Hopefully you've all been vaccinated.
Yes.
We followed Ed Tremont's advice and his buddy there, his rock star buddy, Tony Fauci. So we're all following
Other
the
people.
direction, right?
Okay.
Hey, Harry.
hey, Peter, how you doing?
I'm good. You look good.
My wife is behind me. She's the one that's looking good.
I know that.
Hi, Peter.
Oh, there he is. Hi.
I don't know.
Everybody feeling good? Everybody getting through the pandemic or
The pictures.
any issues with family members?
Remember?
Yeah.
We've been fortunate, no problems.
Yeah. We've been fortunate. My son-in-law, who's a urologist in New York, he came down with the virus. He was moderately sick, never in his lungs, thank God. And I say that as a pulmonologist. I gave him advice and checking him. He quarantined at home. His wife was a nurse and two little girls. They never got it. He survived. He gave us plasma and he's doing okay. One of our colleagues, you may not know, I don't know if Harvey Nightlake went to BU Medical School, did he?
No, he went to Tufts.
Oh, he went to Tufts. Well, Dick and I had a senior resident who practiced with us in Brockton. He was in oncology. And unfortunately, he came down with COVID, respiratory failure, renal failure, hospitalized at the Brigham.
Oh,
Unfortunately, did not make it.
oh my.
Yeah, it was a kind of a, he was pretty healthy too until
Oh,
this
he was very
happened, right?
healthy, yeah. He
Tennis
worked out
player
nicely.
living in Florida, but he came up to the Cape and I guess in June came down with the disease and was really critically ill.
Yeah, how many people are you expecting today?
22.
Okay.
We'll see if we can recognize each other. It's been, it's I think for most of us, it's been 60,
55.
65
Right
years.
here.
Oh, look at
Hey,
the good
Peter, how
pictures.
are you?
Oh,
55.
Peter, hi there.
Just reminiscing, Peter, that you and I have known each other since high school and you were the best man at my wedding. And you also lived in Hingham here, along with Dick and Joe Uvino. I guess, how long were you here, Peter? 15, 18 years?
Well, we left in 1984 to come down to Hartford, and we started in Hingham, I would say 1970.
Yeah. Actually, you're the one that got me to move to Hingham, if you recall. And then I ended up practicing here in Brockton, and so does Dick and Joe Uvino at the South Shore Hospital in Weymouth here.
Okay, I see Marty Sheehy there.
Yeah, how you doing, Aaron?
There he is.
Hey,
Another
missed you at the last reunion. Talked to you on the phone.
Okay.
Marty, how are you? Ron Kutu here.
Yeah, I'm doing well.
Good. Have you had to go in to take care of people on ventilators?
Well, no, I retired. I retired as of January 2020.
2020? Yeah, I retired 5 years ago, but I kept trying to volunteer if my colleagues needed our services at the Good Sam to take care of our vented patients, but I guess they got it through it okay.
Well, I talked with Dennis Lind. He and I, both psychiatrists, were both retiring this year. Is the plan. Still working. Can't say I'm enjoying telehealth, but I'm used to it and doing it.
Yeah, good for you. Good for you. Well, Joe Uvino is retiring at the end of the year, and I think, Peter, you told us also you're retiring at the end of the year?
No, not the end of the year, June 30th,
Oh, June 30th.
end of the academic year.
Yeah.
Right.
You're going to be able to handle that, Peter, after all your activities and duties.
We have 18 grandchildren, and I am going to be the permanent Uber driver, I'm sure.
Good one. Ron, you know, one of the things that I sent a message, I don't know when you get to all the people here, as far as updating the group in terms of this sad part of life, which is, well, the people who are deceased, if you got that information for us.
I do. I was going to keep that list till everybody was here, unless you like me to go through it now.
No, that's a very good, I'm very glad to hear that. Yeah.
I have a list. Unfortunately, it's 13, I believe, which I thought I would keep till at least around 5:15. Who's leaving early? Ed Tremont?
Yes, I have to leave.
Well,
Hey,
we'll
how
we'll
you
do it
doing?
at
Oh, hi,
5:15.
Ed.
I'll do it at 5:15. I'll give us a moment of remembrance for the 12 or 13 members that passed away.
That's great.
Some of those you know, and some of them you don't know. I didn't know about some of them who had passed. We all know about Judy Vatakaitis and so forth, but I have a list, and perhaps we'll give a testimonial to them and
Right, the health is really becoming more and more a big topic as we get older.
yeah, absolutely. Well, I've been advised to remind all of us to not talk too much about all of our aches and pains, since we all have them. But I would dare say that probably 50% of us have some hypertension. I know a number of my colleagues have atrial fibrillation. I would predict probably 50%. I think probably more than 70% of those are probably on Eliquis. So we have to watch our steps. But by and large, most of us are still standing and still staying active. Either myself, I retired 5 years ago, but I kept teaching for 3 years at Massasoit Community College, a program that a number of us started in 1975. And thank God, because we graduated over these years, 750 respiratory therapists, which were dearly needed within the pandemic. So I went back, I continued teaching there. And then the other thing I did, I went back to BU. That's where I did all my training. I did my pulmonary fellowship. As a matter of fact, I was the first BU grad and the first fellow in the evolving pulmonary center that was started by Gordon Snyder and Ed Gensler. So I take some pride in that. That department is a tremendous facility at the medical center right now. And went back also to teach, as Peter does at UConn and Ed does at the Walter Reed and so forth at the NIH. Went back to teaching our first year medical students, which I thoroughly enjoyed. Each semester I had a group of 16, introducing them to clinical medicine, a history and physical exam. And it was a wonderful experience for me to go back to the medical school, to go to Building A, to the Henry Bask Auditorium, if you all recall, which is still there, and it's really well done. It's all computerized. The B and C buildings are gone. The new medical school is beautiful. I don't know if you've had a chance to visit, but the facilities, the classrooms, the laboratories were fascinating to me. It was very exciting. It made me young again, fascinating to go to some of the lectures. As an aside, the medical school does not have a name yet. We're not going to solicit any money today, but if there's anybody in the class like Icon that named NYU after him, the medical school has no name on it yet, fellas, as an aside.
Hey, Ron, how much are they looking for?
Oh, I have no idea. Maura's in the background. You probably do, Peter. It's probably in the millions, right?
Well, I'm sure it'll be north of 100 million, believe
Yeah,
me.
I know it. We need somebody
It
like
ought to be.
that. Well, anyway, just to bring people up to date, it was kind of a nice experience to go back to the medical school to see the facility, the advances, and to go into the old Bax Auditorium. I went to some of the lectures with the students, and it was interesting on how they're approaching racial diversity, cultural diversity. And it's nice to see what they're doing. I'm sure they're doing at UConn also, Peter, like they're using at UMass Medical. But going through the building, B and C building are gone. Now we have a new building. And then as you come into the medical school, there's a Hall of Fame, a wall of fame with pictures of names you will recognize who became giants in medicine, who were our teachers. Franz Engelfinger, Robert Wilkins, Chester Kiefer, Chester Kiefer, the auditorium is named after him. The board for the medical school is named after Robert Wilkins. We have Franz Engelfinger, Richard Egdahl, Judy Vaticardis.
Relman, Relman.
Bud Relman, Norman Levinsky,
Yeah.
the whole lineup. And we had all of these as teachers, and it was nice to see that. And again, it was exciting for me. It made me feel young again to go back and teach history and physical exam. It's interesting, if you recall, when we were in medical school, we had a little book. It was about this big, and we kept it in our pocket. Now they have a tome, it's about this big, 8 by 12 by 11, this thick, on teaching how to do a proper history and physical. So it was quite fascinating. They have mannequins. They have rooms where students are interviewing active patients to learn how to take a history and physical, while the rest of us are in other rooms with cameras to assess the students, which I thought was kind of fascinating. I suspect, Peter, you're doing the same thing at UConn, but it was kind of fascinating to see this. So that's basically what I did. I did my pulmonary fellowship, all my training at BU, and then went into practice for 45 years, practicing internal medicine and pulmonary medicine, critical care, sleep medicine at the Good Samaritan, and retired 5 years ago. I met my wife at the University Hospital. We've been married for 52 years. We have 3 children, all married with 6 grandchildren. Can't keep up with Peter with his 18, but we have 6, ages 21 to 6. And we missed him this whole past year. Like I'm sure it was the case with most of you, but now all vaccinated, we're trying to get together again. What else can I say? We've done some traveling. Actually, with Dick and I, we've gone to Europe several times, London, Paris. Ed Sheehy, are you still there?
Marty Sheehy, yeah.
Yeah, do you remember us meeting in Paris on the Colette tours?
Oh, yes, yeah.
That was quite a coincidence. But that was a very nice tour. But basically, that's what I've been doing. We've been doing some sailing with Joe Yovino. I'm trying to do some golfing. Again, I can't keep up with Peter. My handicap, I won't even mention, but I'm the youngest guy in my group, and I'm 80 years old, but we have fun. And basically, I've done a lot of genealogy research, and this is what's kept me busy. I still try to keep up with the New England Journal of Medicine and my chest journals to keep up with things, but that's basically what I've done. So basically, that's kind of a format. I'd like to have all of you contribute. Perhaps, Dick, you want to make a few comments, and then Joe Yovino, and then we'll go from person to person. Please feel free to interrupt and ask questions. And
Okay,
Yeah.
I retired about 12 years ago, but continued working in a hospice program and ran the administrative side of the cancer program at the Good Samaritan Hospital, and then stopped all kind of activities about 2 years ago, and basically been sitting back and with Ron,
relaxing, he says. Relaxing
relaxing,
and reading.
see Ron at least once a week or so, and then we've been to Europe several times, and also he's come down to stay with us in Florida, where we go for a couple of months every year. And other than that, doing a lot of reading, and that's what keeps me busy. It keeps my mind active, such as it is.
Who else wants to chime in? Now, who's next? Harry Ionata, you were the first one to come on the screen. Bring us
Yeah.
up to date.
I did my training at BU in urology and came back home to Providence to practice, and been on the faculty at Brown all these years, an associate professor here, and still in practice. I was thinking of retiring a couple of years ago, but the guys convinced me to continue with the residents at the VA and at the Department of Corrections and Rhode Island Hospital, and do other procedures at Miriam Hospital. We're still active, but try to not go more than 3.5 days a week. Have 6 grandchildren and 5 children and 6 grandchildren. And the children all took after my wife. They were all athletes. An All-American daughter from Bowdoin, an All-American hockey player from Williams, and all the others were the same at their various schools. now I spend time trying to chase the grandchildren around and have a lot of fun with them, watching them grow and learning what their grandfather did and their grandmother did compared to what they do now. I don't think I'd be able to succeed in what these kids have to learn and do in school and classes and everything else. I think we were a lucky generation. We came after the World War II people. And Joe, remember when we ran into each other in Vietnam?
Oh, yes. Oh,
Yeah.
yes, I
Tell
do.
us.
Phu Bai.
Fubai, yes.
Right.
God, remember that helicopter
My
ride?
last partner. You never did get indoor latrines, did you?
No, I didn't.
But we had them. And I've enjoyed what I've done. I've had a lot of fun doing it, and a lot of good memories about BU and my residency training. Someone asked me, one of the young ladies asked me about Carl Olson. Carl Olson, I was really the first guy to graduate from his program, although I started off with George Austin, but
Yeah.
it was a lot of fun.
Mhm. Very good. Joe, you want to continue?
Sure,
Tell us
sure,
what you
all right. When I finished from BU, I went to Boston City Surgical, along with Jim Ballou and Steve Lansky, and JJ Barrett, and Harry, of course. And as Harry said, we wound up in Vietnam together, along with Roger Pompeo, for a year, and then a year in White Sands Missile Range in Mexico, back here, and settled in Hingham. Interestingly enough, settled in Hingham, 4 houses away from Ron Kutu. And our kids grew up together. Practiced at South Shore Hospital for 48 years now. I've cut back, and I'm just doing 2 days a week of venous disease, and I'm going to stop practicing the end of the year.
Great, great. Ooh. Ed Joseph, tell us what you're doing.
Okay, I'm 86 years old now,
Wow.
and have had 4 wives and 4 divorces, and am a resident of a nursing home in Jacksonville, Florida.
Oh, really?
After a not too distinguished residency in Rochester, New York, I had a not too distinguished series of practice experiences in Boston and then in Kentucky. Been sued a couple of times, and now I'm just sort of trying to stay alive.
Oh.
Hi, Joe.
Hello.
Good to see you. Good to see you.
Good to be seen and not to be viewed.
Absolutely, absolutely, Ed.
Ed, you want to give us some background? Even though we've met almost every year since graduation, but I'd like to have the group know where your career has been.
Well, I was very lucky. I went from, I was doing my internship and residing with Judy Vatakaitis at Cornell.
Yeah.
And I was drafted, and I just by pure serendipity and luck and my wife's encouragement, I ended up at Walter Reed, and I never left. I was there for 23 years. I established an infectious disease training program in the military. And then 20 years ago, I left to go to the University of Maryland to set up the Institute of Human Virology with Bob Gallo, who was a discoverer of the first human retrovirus, and Bob Redfield, who was, he went on to become the director of the CDC. And 10 years ago, or 20 years ago, I was recruited by Tony Fauci, who I had known from when I was at Cornell, to come and set up the division of AIDS at NIH, which I did. And then that was a bureaucratic job. I got tired of it, and I was going to leave and go to a company called Novavax, which was founded by my ex-fellows. But Tony talked me into staying around and created a job for me. And I am the associate director for special projects, which means I do what Tony asks me to do. And it's wonderful. I have a lot of authority, but not a lot of responsibility. So I don't threaten anybody, and I don't get people knocking on my door for money and stuff like that. And I really enjoy what I do. And as I said, as Ron said, I stayed very active seeing patients until COVID hit. And then Fauci told me to go home. He said, you're 80 years old and you had you had cancer. You're at risk. Go home.
Yeah.
And I have been working out of home now for a year and a half, and I don't like it. This is not the way to do it. But I have a great career. It's all worked out extraordinarily well. If somebody had said this, I was going to be doing this when I was in medical school, I would have laughed at them. But it's worked out extraordinarily well. And I'll just give you some insight of what I do. Before I got on this call, I was discussing with the transplant folks at NIH a protocol where we're going to do transplants, stem cell transplants in HIV infected or AIDS patients to try to turn off the virus in these patients as a potential cure. Only at a place like NIH could you do that because it's very expensive, very complicated, but it's it's cutting edge and it's a lot of fun to be at the dancing edge like that, where you're looking at new stuff. I don't think it'll work, but it's, do the experiment and you find out. That's what I tell the fellows. So that's what I do. I live here in Bethesda, Maryland, but I have a summer home on Cape Cod, which was because of my wife. That's what she wanted. And she passed away. I was going to sell it, but my daughters went nuts. And so I still have it. I still have it. I made a deal. I said, okay, I'll pay the bills, but you run it. And they're doing a good job. Except when I see the bills come in, I wonder, wait a minute, what's this? But it's working out fine. Well, that's my story. I tell you who I miss. I miss Judy, because Judy and I were together at NIH for a long time. And we would, when we were having a bad day, we'd get together and commiserate about the good old days at BU.
Yeah.
Were good days, most of them.
Peter, bring us up to date.
Ed mentioned Tony Fauci, and I know I know how much Tony Fauci means to Ed, but what you all probably don't know, except Ron and Ed, is that Tony Fauci and I were classmates together at Holy Cross.
Mhm.
And his skills, his intelligence, his courage, his compassion, I can use any kind of flattering word that you could imagine, were off the chart at that time.
Wow.
And all of us, we had a lot of bright kids in our class at Holy Cross, and all of us working hard every day, trying to keep up with Tony Fauci, to say the least. And so it's
changed.
I know. And when he sent you home, Ed, don't forget he's older than I am by 3 or 4 months, or 2 or 3 months, but he's probably in a lot better shape than most anybody on this telecast here tonight.
Yeah, he doesn't jog anymore, but he does walk.
Yeah.
Go for long walks. Power walks.
He's truly an amazing guy. But from my point of view, I was wondering where you wanted this to go tonight, Ron. And, when I was at BU Medical, I got married after my second year to a young woman whose father was the chief of surgery at St. Vincent's Hospital in Worcester, Massachusetts. And my goal in life was to go back and practice private surgery with him in Worcester. I ran into Fran Zingelfinger, and I ran into Peter Marsden, and Richard Egdahl. And the three of them, I think, ganged up on me and caused me to consider whether or not an academic career would be something that I would enjoy and that I ought to pursue. I thought they were kind of crazy, but I looked into becoming a clinical associate at the NIH. When I say looked into, I filled out a little form that was in the magazine Cancer and sent it in. And somehow or other, I got an invitation for an interview. And I got appointed to the NIH in 1968 to the surgical branch of the Cancer Institute. And Judy Vitakaitis, by the way, was appointed to the NIH at that same time as a clinical associate. So I worked on the same floor with Judy, and it was clear that she was in a league by herself. She developed the radioimmunoassay for the beta subunit of HCG. And I used to see her a lot, and she helped me a lot because, quite truthfully, I don't know how I got appointed to the NIH. I knew nothing about research at that particular time, but it sure was a fast study over my 30 plus months at the NIH to learn a lot about immunology and transplant and tumor immunology. And the biggest mistake I made in my career is I did enough work there that I could have written at least 2 theses, if not 3 theses, and got a PhD in immunology. I just had to take a few extra courses at Georgetown at night. And, you know, we lived in Bowie, Maryland. That was 26 miles away from the NIH. And I said to myself, hell, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to go back and practice with Barbara's father in Worcester, Massachusetts. But to make a long story short, it never went that way. I became enamored of the academic life, finished my surgical residency, was at BU for 10 years, but then was recruited to the Hartford Hospital as their director of surgery. And a few years after that, became the chairman at UConn in surgery. And then in 1992, I was made the dean of the medical school. And I was the dean of the medical school until 2008. In the last 10 of those years, I was also the executive vice president of the health center. I can tell you, if anybody offers you the job of dean of the medical school, take it. It was the best job I ever had. I met some of the most bright people I've ever worked with. They all had wonderful ideas, and my job was to just try to find enough money to make their ideas a reality, find enough space so they could work comfortably and get their projects taken care of, and somehow or other fit them into the strategic plan. And I learned, that's why I commented about naming the medical school, Ron. I learned a lot about something deans should do well, and that is present that strategic plan to wealthy people and see if they could introduce those wealthy people to the same excitement that I had for the research we were doing. But it was Egdahl and it was Marsden and Ingelfinger who made that happen for me. They literally changed my life. I didn't realize it at the time I was going through it, but I'm indebted to them and indebted to them for what I got from BU. And I can tell you that looking back on it, I know some of you would wonder as a surgeon where my enthusiasm for immunology came. But remember, before I became a surgeon, I had the privilege of being a medical intern working with Franz Ingelfinger at Boston City. And I know that he did an enormous number of really good things for me over my career, including teaching me how to make decisions very concretely, teaching me that most patients had one core diagnosis, not that they needed treated, and they may have a whole lot of comorbidities, but pay attention to the core diagnosis. And you know, I just, looking back on it, I wish there was a way I could repay them better than I've already done, because they meant so much to me and my family. And from a family point of view, we are a nation. We've got my wife and I and 7 adult children, 6 of whom are married. One of my sons is disabled. but 6 of them are married. We have 18 grandchildren ranging in age from 27 down to 7 years of age. And you were mentioning the coronavirus before. At least 4 of my grandchildren have had the virus. 3 of them are nurses. They work on the coronavirus wards and picked up the virus. But thankfully, this virus doesn't seem to be as difficult as it is in young men and young women of their age as it is in people our age. And so I look upon my life and my career, both personally and professionally, as the greatest blessing anyone could ever have. And I'm very, very thankful for it, believe me. And I've been thankful for the friendships I had with each of you going through this together. And I just wish to God we could see each other more often. And I thank you, Ron, for taking the lead on setting this thing up.
Well, hopefully hopefully this will be the last virtual. Hopefully the next one will all be together face to face. It may not likely happen this fall, since BU has not made a decision of in-person reunions. Incidentally, they have switched all their reunions to the fall rather than the spring for the entire university. I suspect it won't happen this year, but we can hopefully look forward to our 60th. Is that what it's going to be? Yeah, 60th in 2026. So 60, hopefully we can get together. Before people have to leave, I don't see everybody on the screen that signed up, but I know Ed is going to have to leave soon. I thought it'd be a good time to, again, I feel like Peter, BU did a lot for me. Those of you who want to review, there's a book, I don't know if you can see it, but there's a book I have. It's called Generations. I don't know if Peter has seen this or Ed has seen this or any of you. It's a wonderful history of our medical school that goes back, founded in 1848. This was written at our 150th, and now we're 173. I was perusing it last night, and it's amazing. Our generation, our years, we were really taught by giants in the field of medicine in this country. And it's a testament to the medical school, and we need to thank them for what they've done for us. Our education, our experiences, and so forth. It's called Generations. I presume you could get it through the alumni, but it's really a very beautiful historical document. At this time, I could mention, you've already heard from 2 of those who received a special Distinguished Alumni Awards going back to 1983. We have 6 in our class to receive this award. And I think we should be all proud that our first one was a female physician, and that was Judy Vatakaitis, who in 1983 received the award. I'm sure you're all aware of her stellar career at BU, the NIH, back to BU and back to the NIH. In 1990, we have Ed Schneider. I think he was scheduled, but I don't see him on the screen. But he had a wonderful career in gerontology out in California, being the dean of a new school of gerontology. And that was done early in the fields of gerontology, so we give him credit for that. We've already heard Ed, 1993, receiving his award, his career at Walter Reed, the University of Maryland, and now the NIH. And in 1996, Peter, who just outlined his career, certainly a stellar career from BU to UConn and so forth. And then Richard Bland, who was signed up, I don't know if I don't see him on the screen, who's had a wonderful career in pediatrics. And I was glad to see that he wrote some papers on ventilatory care and respiratory failure at the University of California. Again, he received the award the same year as Peter in 1996. And then most recently in 2001, Howie Fine, who was also signed up, who made his fame and career in ophthalmology, developing techniques and instruments at the University of Oregon. So we have 6 people in our class who will receive this award. So it's nice to know this, that our colleagues have done so well. In that, Ed will be leaving. I think I'll take the time to mention those colleagues who have passed.
Ron, before you go on,
Yes.
let me just point out that 3 of the people on that list of 6 dissected at the same anatomy table when we took anatomy in the first year of medical school with Ed Joseph.
Yeah, that's right. And I was right next to you with John Shea and David D'Alessandro. I guess we all have memories of the anatomy lab. That was the most striking experience. Between that and the Mallory Institute, wonderful experiences. But I'm going to mention these names. Hope I saw. Unfortunately, we have lost 12 colleagues. I don't have the years where they passed, I'm sorry, but some of you may know this, but I'll read them off by alphabetically. We have Thompson Bachman, who passed away. Perhaps Harry knows him because he practiced in Westerly, Rhode Island. Is that right, Harry?
Yes.
You knew when he passed, right?
Oh, many years ago.
Many years ago. And then Epiphanes Balian, who practiced psychiatry up in Maine. James Ballou, who practiced surgery, I believe, in New Hampshire. And that was a long time ago, I'm told also. John Barrett, likewise a surgeon who apparently developed ALS. Philip Elia, who practiced medicine, academic internal medicine, who passed away in Florida. Antonio Gassett, also, at least the last address was in Miami. He practiced ophthalmology. Gerald Goldman, who practiced internal medicine, who passed away also in Florida. I'm not sure if that's where they retired or practiced.
Jerry passed away about 20 years ago, and he was doing dermatology in Seminole, Florida.
Oh, okay. William Gurnak, he practiced internal medicine.
He was the first of our class to pass on.
Is that right? Okay.
I
Then-
thought he was a psychiatrist.
Yes, he was a psychiatrist.
Yeah.
Richard Leet in Colorado also practiced psychiatry. George Pantelides, who practiced psychiatry also in Salem. Michael Sulkin, who practiced surgery and academic surgery in Maryland. I don't know, Ed knows him at the University of Maryland or not?
Yes, he actually trained at the University of Virginia and was quite popular there. I was surprised he came to Maryland because, there's a competition between Maryland and Virginia.
Yeah.
He did really well. Extraordinary.
So that was Michael Sulkin, and then Judy Vatikatis, we've all talked about. She died in 2018. And that's basically the list I have. We have one member whose name we can't find is Ed Grimes. I don't know if anybody knows. He came from my hometown. He practiced here, but also went to Texas. And no one seems to know at the medical school what's happened to him. But that's basically the list we have. So perhaps we can spend a moment of silence and memory and respect for our colleagues who have passed away since 1966. May they all rest in peace. I don't have any other faces on the screen. Peter Schwartz, did you want to speak further? Peter?
Sure. I never hesitate to speak, if you might recall.
Is my audio on? Is my
Yeah,
audio connected?
yes, connected, yes.
This is Tobias. I just thought I would say hello
Oh,
before.
yes,
we got-
Tobias Goodman.
Oh, hi, Toby.
Hey, Toby.
So you just came
I
on,
just wanted
Toby?
to say- I did. I've been reading the mail here for a while, and my audio didn't, I guess it's now connected. I wanted to say that Tom Bachman's office was next to mine in Westerly, Rhode Island.
Oh, Westerly, yeah.
And I'll tell a little story about him if I may. May
Oh,
I
please
do
do.
One day, a married couple came to see me that just got back from their honeymoon, and the man looked very anxious. And the wife looked concerned. So the man came in to see me, and he had a painless oval ulcer in his glans penis. I looked at it and I thought, well, you know, I don't see primary syphilis in private practice in my suburban community very often. But this is it looks like primary syphilis to me, but because this is of such great social significance, I'll send them next door to Tom, who's doing dermatology, to have him confirm it. So I sent them next door, and I walked next door, and an hour later I called Tom and said, well, what happened? He said, oh yeah, he said, that was primary syphilis. He said, I told them both to their face and told them that what it was. And she left him right there and then in my office.
Wow.
So that was Tom. He was intellectually rigorous, but fearless with the truth. He developed a vascular sarcomatous lesion in an artery in his neck, which is what did him in, unfortunately.
Wow. Wow.
So
So
there I
on
was, there I was tiptoeing around, and Tom got right to the meat of the matter.
So I'll continue on that happy note. I was in the Peace Corps after medical school, and then went on, did residency in OBGYN at Yale, and eventually ended up for about 30 years running a department and a residency program in OBGYN, and developed my field of medical ethics. And I got to chair ACOG's, American College of OBGYN's Ethics Committee, and a few other ethics committees, American Academy of Pediatrics and Internal Medicine. Retired once, was asked back to do another 2.5 years as chair, and retired a third time. And now I have perhaps the most exciting job that I've had on AMA's Council on Ethical and Judicial Affairs, which is extraordinarily busy and active, and tries to keep my mind on track. I'm also on the board of Frontier Nursing University, which graduates about 1/3 of the country's midwives. And also truly enjoyable, I've made 7 trips to Ethiopia in the past 3 years, helping them create their first code of medical ethics. And unfortunately, have not been able to go the last year, but I'm looking forward to going back again. They have the problem of not only the virus, but civil war in 3 parts of the country. And so my good friends there are encouraging me not to go. I think my enemies would encourage me to go. But you know, the career and world for me have been extraordinarily wonderful. I mean, I'm again one of those that looks back and says that I couldn't have asked for anything more. Everything has truly been wonderful and still is. So I'm looking forward to seeing all you guys. It's wonderful to hear the stories. I have spoken to Ken Padini a couple of times this year, because he and I made a trip in 1965, and he's my memory of that trip. So from time to time, when I'm trying to think back of that trip and where we went and when we went, I get in touch with him, and his memory is fabulous, and he reminds me of that trip. I'm still with the same woman for the last 50 years this year, and we have 3 children, 6 grandchildren, well, 5 grandchildren, 1 on the way.
Good, terrific.
Life is great. Thanks.
Wonderful.
Peter, a long way from Filene's basement, right?
Yes, yes. That was one of the sad parts when they closed. There's no reason to come back to Boston anymore.
Wonderful. Is David Zorno on the screen somewhere? Is he signed in? David? I just want to make sure I check with everybody. Is Jonas Leeper signed in? Bill Maxwell. I want to make sure we hear from everybody. Paul Gittman was on earlier, wasn't he?
Yeah, I'm here.
You want to speak? There you are, Paul. You want to tell us a little more about some big nets, about what's happened in the last 50 years?
Sure. When I finished training, I went into the Air Force for 2 years. Was stationed in Texas, so it was a good experience and I was safe. Developed and taught the PA program for the Air Force. Taught the astronauts who went up in Skylab. So it was a really great experience. When I came back, was in private practice, general internal medicine for 35 years. Following that, I went to academic medicine, was a chief of a division, and then became medical director at Long Island Jewish Medical Center, which is now part of Northwell Health on Long Island. And I finished my career as VP of Medical Affairs at Northwell for the health system. Following that, I retired and then did consulting for about 5 years. And have 3 children, 7 grandchildren. All 3 children live within 20 minutes of us. So we're kind of blessed compared to a lot of other people. I spent most of my time, free time, traveling and doing photography, which I just love. And this pandemic, it's driving me crazy. I haven't been able to travel. So I have 2 trips scheduled, one for the Northeast Passage, which is above Russia, going from Norway to Alaska this July, hopefully, and then in December from the tip of Antarctica to tip of South America, all along the Antarctic Peninsula to ending up in New Zealand. So those are 2 big trips that are planned, but I've had a wonderful experience. I thought BU was great. I thought our education there was terrific. No complaints. I really thank the institution for the education that I got.
Well said. Well said. Is Michael Trogakis there?
Hear me?
Michael?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I'm practicing in Greece. After my graduation from BU, I went to Pittsburgh University. I took my residency in ophthalmology, and I see my dear friend, Fine Howie, been the other ophthalmologist. Then I went to Cornell University. I did my special training in crafts, corneal transportation. I stayed there as assistant professor. And a few years back, I returned back to my country, back in Greece, where I was a professor at the university. And at this age, I still practice in ophthalmology. I do my surgery. I do my clinical work. And I look forward coming back to the States, where I used to come every year. I was coming to Boston and the American Academy meeting. But last year, I could not come. I hope that this year we'll be able to come in Boston and see every one of you. Unfortunately, our faces have changed with the years, so very few that I see here I can recognize, except of how fine that I see him more frequent, both in the States and here in Greece when I was invited speaker. And I'm very glad that I see all of you, and sorry for the classmates of ours that we have lost. Thank you for inviting me, and hope to see you again. Thank you.
Hopefully you can meet us for the 60th in 2026.
Yes, I hope.
Let's all hope.
And
Hey, Ron, what's wrong with next year?
What's that?
What's wrong with next year?
Go ahead, Peter, organize it.
You know, I'll take next year.
Is Joan Sender there, Lasser?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, now we can see you and hear you.
Okay. Well, I also enjoyed my profession very much. I went into radiology and was lucky to get a residency at Yale. So that was great. And but before I did that, I had 3 children in 4 years. So that kept me very busy. And I practiced various places, but mainly in Rhode Island. had my own practice for 11 years. I also worked at Kent Hospital and then Rhode Island Hospital with a big group up there. I retired about 2008 already because my two daughters went into medicine and now they're telling me what to do. And they didn't like that I was sitting all day. So I didn't miss the career, but I thought maybe I'd become a good golfer, but that didn't happen. So do a lot of reading, walking, love swimming. I spent half the year in Florida in Naples and then the other half in Seattle, where I have a daughter with 2 grandkids. So, and my middle daughter is a professor at BU now. She's internal medicine and public health. So I'm really proud of her. She got her MPH at Harvard and she went to medical school at Cornell. She's loves her career and is very happy. They're all happy, my kids, and done very well. So
That's great.
yeah.
Glad
Mhm.
to hear.
Yeah.
Glad to hear. Wonderful to hear.
Mm.
Does Toby Goodman want to say anything further?
Are we doing autobiographical sketches? Is that the plan? I guess I practiced in Wesley, Rhode Island in urology. I volunteered in public health there. Having been the preventive medicine officer for the 26th Division, that got me interested in public health. So we got some exciting times with water supplies and mosquito-borne diseases. I invented the rigid ureteroscope in 1976 and 77 and 78. And I wrote the first paper on that procedure actually then. Since I retired, I've written a couple of books, non-medical. The first one, I translated 42 Greek and Latin comments about current American life. And the second book was about a locally significant photographer and artist. I live in the fire district of Wesley, Rhode Island, and I'm quite happy. And I'm very happy to see everybody. I'm not sure I recognize everybody, but everyone sounds very successful. And I think we had a wonderful class. I concur completely that we had a very wonderful experience with the giants who were teaching us. I always thought that Leonard Osler was kind of a sort of a power in the shadows there, but I think he added a lot to the moral background of the school. I wish I'd seen more of him. I guess that's all I should say.
Well said.
Thank you.
Well said. Is Michael Nannuzzi out of there?
I am.
There you are. Hey,
I'm
Michael.
not sure if I'm happy or sad to report that I recognize everybody. That's
Yeah, we were on the same cadaver, Michael.
I can see you the way you look now, and I can see how you look before at the same time. Everyone. I've worked as a psychiatrist for over 50 years in Boston. Never left Boston. I was on the staff at Mass Mental Health Center, the training program for 20 or 30 years. I saw a lot of residents and supervised a lot of residents. And I also had a part-time private practice, more than half-time usually, outpatient. Currently, I still see 4 or 5 patients. And again, I'm not sure whether I'm thrilled about admitting this either, but some of them I've known for 30, 40 years. Patients, I'm not sure how well I did. I stuck with people that need ongoing attention often. And there are 4 or 5 left now, and I still feel interested, and I think it's more fun than golf. So I continue to do that. What I do more now, I'm more do, and I have been for a number of years in organization medicine. I'm on board of trustees of the Mass Medical New England Journal and Mass Association of Mental Health. And thinking of stopping my practice, but it doesn't seem to happen. In psychiatry, we have a group of people who are thinking of stopping their practice. Some of them are dying before they're in the group at 90, and some of them are still seeing 300 patients. I see 4 or 5.
Wow. Commendable. Wonderful. Wonderful. Is John Nigro there?
Yeah, I'm here.
There you are, John.
Yep.
Here's another one we crossed paths with in Brockton.
Hey, John.
Yeah. How you doing, Peter?
John, do you still have your motorcycle?
No, I get rid of the last of my motorcycles in the 80s.
The last time I ever was on a motorcycle was with you, and I was scared to death.
Had a good time with motorcycles, including the time I took a year off from medical school. And I remember an interesting experience. A lot of you didn't know that, but I was in the class of 65. And I remember when I took the physiology exam, I went, oh, crap. I said, I think I just bombed this thing. So I walked out and I went to see Dean Hagedorn. I said, Dean, I think I just crashed the physiology exam. He says, oh, gee. He says, what are you going to do? I said, well, the first thing I'm going to do, I bought a big 1959 BMW motorcycle. I'm going to get on that motorcycle and I'm just going to keep driving. I also bought a Counterflex Super B single lens reflex. I'm going to take pictures of every place I see. And he looked at me, he says, well, do you still want to be a doctor? I said, of course I do. And his eyes lit up. He says, I always wanted to ride a motorcycle. Let me tell you what I'm going to do. He says, I'm going to save you a slot in next year's class. But send me photographs or whatever you got in your travels, wherever you go. And I did. And it took me about 7 months to make the round trip all across the United States, Route 66, every place, national parks, see people. And finally I returned back, and then of course the rest is history. When I got through, I went into emergency medicine, which I loved because it was something that you could, when you worked, when you were off, you were off. And I like that because I had a lot of other things I wanted to do. The motorcycles continued. I ended up doing cross-country motorcycle racing. I did pretty well at it, but I didn't qualify for the international 6-day trials, which were held in the Berkshires in 1973. As an amateur, I tried to get into that. But I had a lot of fun with motorcycles, built a few bikes myself and raced them. Had a lot of fun with that. Spent a lot of time fishing, gardening, particularly in cultivating various azaleas. And, my son Neil graduated from the University of Vermont as an engineer, ended up in medical school at BU. And he practices up in 12 miles southeast of Spo. And quite an interesting life. He married a granola type, and they have three grandchildren. My daughter lives in Maine. She's got one daughter. And right now, I'm just retired in 2009. I worked at Norwood Hospital for 42 years. I worked at Cardinal Cushing in a group for 25 years. And, at the time when I got a little arthritic and everything else, and the hearing started ringing, I figured I couldn't do my job anymore. But so I retired in 2009. I spend most of my time, 50% of the time up north in East Bridgewater, Massachusetts, and the rest of the time down in Naples, Florida, where I am now. And I'll probably be spending a little more time down here now. But it's nice listening to you guys talk and your stories of of your lives and everything you've been doing. I'm sorry about the folks who've moved on. But you know, I used to kid everybody. I said, you know, the 70s was the white decade. You know, the white decade's a wonderful time. I said, you feel like you're good as you were, you have a couple of mild ailments. For me, I had both hips replaced, a left knee replaced, and recently I had a right shoulder replaced. But if I hadn't done that, I'd be a cripple. I feel great. And I'm now in the gray decade. The gray decade is the one you might not get through, because after that comes black decade. All fun aside, nice seeing everybody. This is a great idea. I had a great time at BU. Very grateful for my time there, and hope we can get together and have a real thing. The pandemic, I have a lot of feelings about what it is all about, but it's not appropriate to talk about it here.
John, I want to thank you for, you've taken care of a lot of my patients over the years through that emergency room, and I can attest to the fact that you always did a very good job, and I
Thank you.
appreciate that. And I'm sure Dick here also.
Fellas, I'm going to have to leave. It's great seeing everybody. Let's do this next year. Make this.
Okay.
I think it'd be great.
Okay,
Yep.
you're in charge next year.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Is Aaron Billowitz there?
Yes, I am. And
There you are. Did you want to add?
oh, very much so. This has been terrific. After medical school, I came to Cleveland. Been in Cleveland ever since. A couple of things in my career. One is methadone was first coming in then, and I was one of the first two doctors during residency to start treating heroin addicts. But maybe the best, experience of all was I worked with transsexuals a lot, and there was an international organization, most remarkable. There were endocrinologists, urologists, surgeons, psychologists, psychiatrists, and it was international. We would have meetings. Every other meeting was in Europe, and I was the president of that organization. That was really one of my highlights. Mostly I've had a very good career and enjoyed everything in Cleveland. I do have to tell you my disappointments though in Cleveland. We still haven't won a sports championship that I've been present. I was in the stadium when John Elway did the drive, and when the Cubs won the World Series 5 years ago in 10 innings after a rain delay in Cleveland, I was there. And lastly, as far as family, I have two grandchildren, and I'm absolutely thrilled that one of them just got accepted into Oberlin College and will be coming here. So Oberlin, of course, is right outside Cleveland, so I get to see one of the grandchildren. Otherwise, I'd have to go to Los Angeles or Boston. Thank you.
Well, come back to Boston sometime. Well said. Is Howie fine there?
Yes, I am. Like many of you, I did my residency training at Boston University, and my career has been a perfect blend of patient care, clinical research, and teaching. I've been on the clinical faculty at the medical school, Oregon Health and Sciences University, where I assisted surgical residents in their final year. I've also had fellows almost every year during my 50 years of practice. And Vicki and I have traveled at least 100,000 miles every year, teaching in every continent except for Iceland. And as a result, we've had many friendships all over the world, with many of whom we still remain in contact with. At this time, I'm seeing patients only a half a day a week. And one of the nice things about ophthalmology is that we have ongoing contact with patients and families. And many of the grandparents that I see today, I first saw as patients in the neonatal intensive care unit. So that's been a lot of fun. I still do ride motorcycles, although at age 80, I switched to three-wheelers. So life has been good and life has been fun. And I think one of the best decisions my wife and I ever made was to come to Oregon, which is absolutely a wonderful place.
Good to see you.
Well said. Good for you. Well said. Is Jerry Pouliot there? Jerry? I guess he's the only. Is there anybody I've missed? I've tried to keep a list here. Most of you I recognize, but some I didn't at first. Is anybody there that I have not recognized to make a statement?
I can tell you a little about my background.
Henry, yes, okay.
My career trajectory was influenced in several ways by our faculty at BU. The first was as a kind of middling medical student when I talked to Dr. Ingelfinger. He advised me that a good place to intern for me in medicine would be Maimonides Hospital. Some of you may remember Dr. Coetzee. He was Dr. Ingelfinger's right-hand man at Boston City, a gastroenterologist. And around our senior year, he went to be the associate chair of medicine at Maimonides. And I ended up interning there and doing another year of training there, and then a third year at Montefiore. While at Maimonides, I met my wife, and we got married between those years at Maimonides and Montefiore. And then I was in the public health service for a couple of years, initially in Washington, D.C. And the second year, I was a renal fellow in San Francisco. And undoubtedly, my interest in nephrology was motivated largely by the teaching of Relman and Levinsky. And I came back and finished my training at Beth Israel in Boston. And at that time, when I was completing my fellowship, there was the first full-time chair of medicine at Newton Wellesley Hospital who was interested in starting a residency training program in medicine. He was a guy named Lot Page. You may remember the lab book that we used in school called Page and Culver. He was the Page of Page and Culver, and a brilliant hypertension specialist who had come to Newton Wellesley some years earlier from the Mass General. So I went there right out of fellowship, and I was the chief of nephrology and the only nephrologist. So discipline of my service was quite easy. I just had to give myself a good talking to from time to time. And over time, a couple of other associates joined me. I was the associate chair of medicine there almost from the beginning. And because I outlived a number of other chairs of medicine, I was acting chair of medicine 4 times. And we eventually retired about 7 years ago after a career that I really enjoyed a lot. Initially, we had our own medical residency there. And then about 20 years before I retired, we joined the Partners Healthcare System. And from then on, we had Mass General residents rotating through. So it was great. We have 2 married daughters, both involved in healthcare in some way. Our older daughter is an attorney by training, but she is the director of an NGO in Miami called the Florida Health Justice Project, which is has its mission of gaining health access and educating people in need about availability of health access. She and my other daughter are both married and each have 2 kids. Our other daughter is an infectious disease specialist, largely HIV specialist, who's the medical director of a program at Downstate in Brooklyn that's called the STAR program, that has its mission of treating and doing research on patients with HIV. So, and since I retired, my main hobby has been building furniture. So fortunately, I build it very slowly. So the orders from the family that I've taken, I'm already ordered out about the next 4 years. And in the last couple of years, we've started spending winters in Sarasota, Florida. The rest of the time, most of the rest of the time we spend on Martha's Vineyard. And that's my story.
Good to hear.
All right.
So,
Peter.
sorry.
Have we covered everybody? I've got a list here. Has anybody not had a chance to speak up about their careers and their experiences from BU on and so forth? Have we missed anybody? Anybody want to add comments? Dick? Which Dick? You, any other comments?
Well, I think you deserve a lot of credit for what you've done, Ron. It's been great.
Thank you.
And thank you, Ron.
Thank you, Ron. That's wonderful.
Well, I'm passionate about the fact that I am a graduate of BU, and then going back to teach as I retired, I had a wonderful experience in meeting new students and to see where the school has done to keep up with all the issues that are facing us today. They had a fantastic year with the pandemic in the sense that they were in the forefront, just like they were at UConn and UMass Memorial and so forth, where a lot of the students were graduating early, got into the front lines, and it was really commendable to see what happened at BU. Ed's gone right now, but you're all aware of the fact that there's a special institute at BU on infectious disease,
Just put that on the book.
terrorism and so forth.
I want your wine to drop, okay?
That they're in the forefront in the genetic testing and the genetic mapping of the virus and so forth. So it's been quite wonderful to see that. So we can all take pride. It sounds like everyone's had a wonderful career. It's nice to talk to everybody, and I hope we can get together, Peter, next year, and hopefully Ed and others, and perhaps we can get together certainly in 2026. It'll be 60 years, and I think we'll all be still standing and looking just as good as tonight.
Ron, if I can make a comment, for many of us, this Zoom format is very convenient, and I, for one, would be very enthusiastic about doing this Zoom meeting again in a year.
Terrific.
It really is so much easier. And
Yeah.
I actually thought there'd be even a few more people than what we've had.
It certainly, I was driving around before I came back to set up the Zoom, and I heard all the traffic coming in out of Boston. It's like old times already. So though it'd still be nice to hug each other and have a drink with each other if we could do that
Aaron.
in the near future.
Aaron, there probably would have been a lot more people on, but they probably forgot it.
But what?
Right.
I missed that. More people accept what?
They probably forgot it.
Oh my gosh.
I have to remind my friend here, Dick, that it was tonight.
It was good to get a reminder earlier today.
I think a reminder system would be very good. I think Aaron is right.
Paul, earlier in the day may not be good enough. Perhaps 3 minutes before.
But early in the day was enough for me not to forget it. So that was the most important thing.
Well, if you notice, Maura Coakley sent out at least 7 invitations for this evening gathering to make sure people were notified. But it's nice to see the turnout was probably 18, 20 people from our class. That's about 28% of the class. And class of 74, unfortunately, we've lost 12. But it sounds like everybody has had a nice career, a wonderful career, both personally, family, professionally. And I think we can all take pride in each other being classmates.
May I ask a question? Does anyone have any biographical information about Judy Vitakaitis, where she was living or what she was doing more recently?
She died when she was back here at BU, as I understand. Ed's gone. But I looked up, if you look up, she's in Wikipedia. She's got a wonderful, where is it? She came back to BU. She was at NIH after her training in New York, then came back to BU and then went back to the NIH. And she died in 2018, but I don't know if it was in Maryland or back here in Boston.
I see.
But she's in Wikipedia. She's had a wonderful career. like a lot of you, I must say, Peter, Ed, and all of you. Actually, I went to I found a lot of you on the internet, which is a kind of sign of some accomplishment. Dick Bland, I missed asking for Dick Bland. He was supposed to sign up. Is he there? No, it's Dick Bland. No. Have we touched base with everybody?
Sounds like it.
Sounds like it. Well, we'll have a toast to all of you. My bottle of wine is downstairs.
Here we go.
A toast to everybody.
Toast to everybody.
It was so nice to see you all, and we wish you well. Let's get through the pandemic. Get vaccinated, as Ed would propose that we all do. I'm sure we all have. I hope your families stay well, and we can get together next year and certainly in person in 2026.
Thank you,
May I
Ron.
say something to
Thank you,
Mike?
thank you.
Joe,
Thank you.
Adieu.
May I say something to Mike Annunziata if he's there?
I'm here.
I gotta call you. Okay?
That was I called you first.
We keep on saying it. We gotta do it.
Nice to see you. Look good.
May I say something to Aaron?
Sure.
Aaron, Dennis has been filling me in on what you've been doing. It sounds very nice.
Right. I was surprised we're talking about Dennis Lind, who's in Hawaii.
Yes.
And he's just really a wonderful presence and a wonderful person to talk with.
He is. Maybe we can talk on the phone, Aaron.
Okay.
Can you phone me?
All right.
All right. Thank you.
Well, nice to talk to you all. It's nice to see you all.
Okay, bye all.
Thank you, Ron.
Good night.
That's all.
Bye-bye.
Stay well.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Mhm. Okay. Alrighty.
Leave the meeting.